used as a laundry bleach. But we've seen a shift where people are now starting to use it as a disinfectant to keep their home surfaces, germ-free. Obviously, hand washing, soaps, sanitizers, obviously also had a major shift when COVID-19 hit. I think what's important also is to try and be relevant as brand owners, not just RB, but everyone else, on educating consumers on the right way to kind of have access to these products, number one. Number two, how to use them. And number three, how to keep safe.
Right.
For sure, we've also seen a shift in shopping behavior, as I mentioned earlier, but also in media consumption, which has been shifting over time. But we saw a very high shift in the uptake of digital, which then affects how you can communicate to your consumers.
To your consumers, yeah. And in regards to like cushioning your consumers, you mentioned some of the retail stores, had to shut down. Nakumatt, obviously, even before Corona hit, they had to shut down. Tuskys, we're seeing that they're struggling with opening, just staying afloat. And a lot of consumers were used to going to these stores because they trusted these stores. They trusted the product that was there and so on and so forth. Has that affected, in general, how then consumers affect even how brands are presented to them?
Yes, I think let's take it from the fundamentals. It's always disappointing when a large player in the industry has to go down, right? Because that puts a lot of pressure on all the stakeholders involved if debts are unpaid, which has been the case in the last few years, right? But what impact that has on consumers is that several companies will struggle to then ride out that blip and impact to be able to bring their offerings back again and again. So it's always disappointing and it's strenuous times. But we've seen several retail chains come and go in Kenya over the last few years.
Yes.
But what we have seen is the opportunity on the flip side. There is it creates an opportunity for new retail companies, etc., to emerge, for shoppers to be able to get back to having access to their product.
I mean, growing up, I used a lot of RB products, and it never hit me the kind of impact we would enjoy in terms of the kind of impact actually some of these products have, and there's a lot of trust between consumer and you, the provider of the product, and how does that make you feel as someone who has impacted lives of people from such a young age up until when they grow up, they realize, oh my God, if it wasn't for Dettol, for example, I don't think my life would have been the same. Does that give you a sense of responsibility then as a producer to even do much more, like a sense it makes you go beyond just business? This is no longer business. This is actually personal.
Correct. You're bang on right. I think in terms of loyalty, which is one of the questions you've asked your audience, I think there's many things that companies will do to generate some kind of loyalty with consumers. Having the right product, doing what the product says on the pack, having the right proposition. But I think what's most important and what we are on our journey towards is having a purpose behind not just the company, but also the brands that we operate in. So that purpose for us as RB is basically to protect and heal consumers in the relentless pursuit of a cleaner, healthier world. And that's the space we play in, right, as a company. You've mentioned Dettol. There are some other brands that I think, we're really intentional in Kenya with, so for example, Mortein Doom. There are several ways to protect malaria, including killing of mosquitoes. So in the past we've worked quite closely with the Ministry of Health and the Anti-Malaria Control Unit to be able to keep this message of protection against malaria alive within Kenya.
All right.
which is, even though we're going through COVID-19, which is a pandemic,
We don't
malaria is
forget
still a
other
severe
issues.
issue
Exactly.
in Kenya.
Right.
Similarly, with Harpic, sanitation. Sanitation in Kenya is still a big issue. 30 to 40% of people don't have access to safe sanitation.
And it's funny you bring that up then, because a lot of consumers then would say, the problems that they face in the different areas of Kenya that they are in, do companies consider, like your brand, for example, does it consider then reaching out and cushioning their customers during a time as, we are facing right now, Corona that is, you've mentioned that, okay, fine, we needed sanitizers starting up, we needed to have clean toilets and so on and so forth, but people couldn't afford some of these products. Then how do brands then consider coming through for their consumer?
Yep.
Because consumers have been loyal for a very long time. Then how does you come in and say, what, we've been together for the last couple of decades and now we are facing tough times together, but we will come in and see how we can assist, just to make sure that we cushion you a little bit as you're going through tough times.
Yeah. So at the onset of the pandemic, right through to 2 weeks ago, there's a couple of things we've been doing to help cushion consumers, as you call it. I think, firstly, it's also about education, on the right practices to keep safe and be hygienically protected, because hygiene is the foundation of health, even more important now during COVID. So there's been a lot of education that's gone out as number one. But in terms of direct impact, so JIC and Dettol across Africa donated products in partnership with UNAIDS to the most vulnerable society across 22 countries in Africa,
right,
including our East African countries and Kenya. With Harpic, we have been commissioning new toilets in Mukuru Kwajenga,
right,
together with a partnership with Sanogy, because honestly, there's a real need of safe toilets within there. We also did some work with Matatu Sacco to ensure that with JIC, the public transport vehicles are disinfected, are safe, and the operators are educated as well. So that's one thing where it's, it's definitely our role to provide this access.
But someone would say that then it's because you're a big brand. What about small brands, people who are just starting out? How can they see areas? Because you guys have got a big war chest as far as money is concerned, I'm assuming. But what are the other ways rather other brands can also contribute in making sure that they play their role? Even if it's what is it called, partnering, so to speak, with people like yourselves. How else can they ensure that they're also playing their role in such times? Yeah,
so I think it depends on the brand and the product. But what we've found is partnerships are very key in terms of being able to partner with an organization that has the infrastructure, the know-how, and the setup to get down to where it matters, right? And that's why we partnered with these organizations that I mentioned. I think smaller brands as well, or any brand for that matter. It's not only about having a war chest and being able to donate product. It's also about having a product that does what it says on the tin.
On the label,
Educating consumers about how to keep safe and providing the right value proposition at the store level, whether it's a supermarket in a high-end mall or your kiosk down by the road.
Okay.
And that's the role every brand can play.
There was a meme that started off just when Corona was hit in Kenya, and it was on the Dettol label where it said that it kills these germs and these germs and these germs, and coronavirus was there. Is that actually true, or was that a photoshopped photo?
No, so there are different variants of coronavirus.
Yes.
And that's what it was referring to. But for COVID-19, we have now had the ability to have the time globally as well as locally to test the products. And especially when it comes to home care, they are effective against COVID-19. So, for example, Dettol antiseptic liquid Jik bleach, which bleach is a WHO recommended solution for cleaning surfaces and disinfecting.
Right.
Harpic as well. So yes, they are
Okay.
effective in keeping your home safe.
Right. Then in terms of marketing and advertising then, brands, especially big brands, have been, for lack of a better word, they have been, there's a word in English I'm looking for, but they have been blamed for not supporting local production, local artists in this way, endorsements. A lot of brands are not doing this. They're not getting the Eric Omondis and the Otoyos and the Churchills and so on and so forth to make sure that they are using this local talent in doing their advertising, in endorsing their brands and so on and so forth. And people might feel that that is not really helping the people that actually are using your products. What do you think in regards to that?
So I won't speak for other companies, but for RB, we definitely support that. So I'll give you a couple of examples, but with Harpic, for example, you know Selena, Catherine Kamau, she Kate the actress. She's been with us throughout.
For a very long time,
and even last couple of weeks ago, we launched a new product together. And, it's definitely something that we see in terms of having relevant local endorsement for specific brands, which can be super beneficial to both the local talent as well as to the brand. So there's that, and also with Dettol, we've done several local endorsement activities with artists over the years as well. Not just artists, but also local personalities.
Has it helped the brands that these individuals have come into to endorse? Because there's one thing about using Paul Movie, for instance, to market your phone or your cup. Does it translate to the sales that you're looking for, or is this just part of your corporate social responsibility to make sure that, okay, we have artists on our brand stick, we have artists endorsing our brand stick? Does it help your brand in any way?
So it's definitely not any sort of CSR to have local endorsements going on. It's what's right for the brand. So let me speak about Harpic, because that's quite passionate for me as well. I think it definitely worked and is continuing to work. The mutual relationship, I guess, that Harpic and Selena or Kate have is phenomenal. Like the level of engagement that she has with consumers and her audience, who are our consumers, is phenomenal. As well as for the brand, it's also been a great opportunity to work with a great local talent to put the brand in the right space where it needed to be.
So that creates then trust between the consumer and the products, consumer and product, and the business, of course. But going forward, there are incidences where companies, again, they find themselves in a rut, so to speak, because they realize either the products they are selling haven't necessarily assisted in the way that they wanted, or there has been scandal either because they've been selling expired products. And how can a company, how can a business recover from such a situation whereby we sold bad soda, for example, or we sold a bad phone? Remember, there's a time Samsung was selling phones that were blowing up. How then does a brand bridge that gap and say, you know what, guys, we are sorry and this is what we're doing to mitigate that situation?
I think, the first thing is, the companies or the brands should do everything they can in their power to have avoided that kind of situation happening by having the right levels of controls and internal processes, qualities, etc. You're boring corporate stuff, but it's super important. So, at the heart of RB, what we believe in is doing the right thing always. No matter what, we'll always do the right thing, even if it's a negative commercial decision. And, that's the kind of ethos that puts a lot of focus on quality and avoiding situations like you've described happening within our company. Should things happen, and sometimes things go wrong, then I think the brand needs to be very open, transparent, and do whatever is in their power to fix it.
Yeah, and of course, quality control is big on your end in terms of you getting the right certifications and the standardizations from KEBS and the relevant authorities and so on and so forth. But we also do have brands who don't necessarily use that route. We have brands that are created literally in someone else's garage, and they infiltrate into the market. We have heard of alcohol that is substandard. I don't know if you remember, there's a time they were selling alcohol called kumi kumi for only 10 shillings. You go blind and so on and so forth. How does that then affect the market generally? Because that's easily accessible. I am sure there's someone who's selling substandard, detergent and bleach out there. How does that affect then the market generally, even for other brands?
I think it's a huge concern because we want consumers to have access to the safe product. Whether it's jik or not, it doesn't matter. They should have access to safe bleach to be able to keep their laundry and homes protected. So it's a concern from that point, because there could be health risks, especially if you talk about something like bleach, right?
Yeah.
But I think what we have seen, to be quite honest, in the last couple of years is very positive momentum from the regulators and the government in terms of helping this be a fair playing field, and actually, minimizing the availability of these kind of products. It's very hard if someone's manufacturing something in the back garden and then putting it on a shelf. Yeah, it's very hard to find that across the country.
Yes.
But what I can say is we've seen some very good progress in the last couple of years, which is helping us, avail safe products to our consumers across Kenya, irrespective of the company.
Unfair competition also is something that is hurting consumers in this way, because if we are getting cheap products from, say, China, they're probably cheap, and they just have enough standard to pass through, the set standards, but are not necessarily the best. And that obviously is hurting business, and in the long run also hurting the consumer, because having substandard products, like we had a situation whereby we had a lot of fake phones, and we used to call them Chinese phones, a lot of fake Chinese phones that have fake operating systems and so on and so forth. That also is a big problem for big players in the field, and big brands in the field. How then does that, affect you directly? And what happens? Do you go to the government and tell them, hey guys, look, we're getting fake stuff from China and this needs to stop? How does that come into play?
Yeah, so I think there's two routes of this. One is if it's a fake counterfeit product of our brands, for sure we will engage the authorities and do whatever we can to address that in the compliant way. Because if it's promising to be something that it actually is not, it's not fair on the consumer again, and could be quite dangerous. But on the other side as well, if cheaper alternatives are coming in, which are technically, not counterfeits, but just another brand that's being able to come in at the right standard and so on, I think it's fair enough for the Kenyan consumers to have that choice. The big established brands need to be on their toes, obviously, to make sure that they can offer the right value and proposition to their consumers. We always get a question like this about RB brands, that it's perceived to be very high-end, only available in the supermarkets and so on and so on. But it's about having the right proposition. So, for example, jik. There's a jik that sells at 30 bob.
Okay.
Yeah?
Which can be found at the local retailer.
Correct.
Right.
And just because it's not visible in the large supermarket, people don't think about it. So the perception is different, which is fine. Let the perception be there, as long as you have the right proposition where it matters. And then lastly, to this point, if of lower quality, cheaper alternatives coming in, I think it's already started here, but it needs to go a long way for this environment to be attractive for local manufacturing and business. Yeah, it's still quite challenging.
Yeah, quite interesting indeed. For the consumer, again, a lot of consumers have complained, like you mentioned, access, and sometimes initially when I said we could be so dependent on a product so much that without it our life literally comes to a standstill. Now there are areas brands are unable to reach, either because there are no roads, either because security is an issue. Is that something that people in your position, and big brands can even talk to local authorities, county governments even, to ensure that we can have roads leading to a certain area, so that women in that area can enjoy these products, or children in that area can enjoy these products. Is it something that comes to mind, or you just wait for infrastructure to appear, then you can move into the area?
No, we don't wait. So we have this thing, what we call a fight, which is making access to high-quality hygiene a right and not a privilege. Part of that is the product proposition, the pricing, etc. But the availability of the product is very important as well. So we would not, wait. But and it's very important to get this distribution right. And that's why working with partners who are already set up and have a way to navigate in those tough terrains, etc. It works perfectly.
These partners do not necessarily have to be the local government or county government. No, it can be other partners.
Yeah, it could be local commercial enterprise, distributors, wholesalers. At one stage we even used to have people who used to carry product and go into deeply
remote areas.
Not remote, deeply congested areas.
Okay.
Where a van is difficult for a van to get in and serve all the shops and stuff, to make sure the product's available to each and every Duka grocery, in that congested area, typically in an urban center.
Okay.
And we're seeing that, with urbanization getting higher and higher, this distribution and availability of product deep in a congested place, you can't rely on the old model of someone going in a van in a distributor and trying to sell. It won't work.
Or Andudi.
Yeah.
Okay, we take a short break, but when we come today, we are focusing on brand loyalty. What has made you loyal to your brand? Whichever brand it is, let us know. And this is our question of the day. What has made you remain loyal to your favorite brands? Let us know whether it's that favorite drink that you take. Is it because of the taste? Is it because of the availability? Is it because of the uniqueness? Is it because your mother works there? Is it because your father owns the company? Let us know. Find us on our WhatsApp, and definitely we shall be coming back with some of your feedback. Do not go too far.